going forward.
We are now 1 hour into our debate, so we want to welcome any new audience from our television broadcast who are joining us now. We are currently talking about marijuana legalization, recreational and or medical. The last one to answer this question, Mr. Greitens.
Now look, it's very simple. There is no stoned path to prosperity. Right? There's no stoned path to prosperity, folks. All right, and look, we need, when there is quality research that demonstrates, for example, that children who have a severe epileptic seizures can be helped with specific kinds of medicine, absolutely. We must be a compassionate state, and we need to make sure that those kids get the care that they deserve. But, you know, since I've come home from Iraq, I've been working with veterans around the country, and I've seen what happens when people get addicted to alcohol. I've seen what happens when people lose a sense of purpose and they start abusing prescription medication. I've worked with people who get trapped in this cycle and they end up on food stamps and welfare and disability. And then what happens is that not only do they ruin their own lives, but then you see what happens to their kids when their parent, when their mother or father is addicted to drugs. We need to do everything that we can in Missouri to help people with addiction off of addiction. And I've worked with people who are alcoholics. I've worked with people who've been addicted to prescription medication. And we've helped them off of food stamps, off of welfare, off of disability to live quality, productive, purposeful, and meaningful lives here at home. And as governor, I'm going to do the same thing.
All right, we want to encourage anyone who's watching at home to get involved on social media as you watch the debate, either on our Facebook page, KOMU TV, or on Twitter. And if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag KOMOGovDebate, and then you'll be involved in the conversation.
Candidates in 1992, Missouri voters said we've got to have term limits, and they approved it. 8 and 8, 8 in the House, 8 in the Senate. It certainly has changed the political landscape. Now there seems to be maybe a push that maybe term limits have gone too far. We'll begin with you, Lieutenant Governor Kinder. Would you change things?
I supported term limits when I ran in 1992. I abided by term limits in the legislature. The people grafted them onto our Constitution with my support by a vote of over 70% for members of the House and Senate. There are term limits for 2 of the 6 constitutional offices elected statewide, those being both 2-term limits, 2 terms as a limit for governor and state treasurer. I have, in 3 statewide campaigns, meeting tens of thousands of people across this state of all persuasions, urban and rural, small town, everywhere. I've not had one person come up to me and say, it's really important for us to institute term limits for state auditor, for attorney general, for secretary of state, and lieutenant governor. It appears to be a hobby horse to some people. We have them for members of the legislature. The people are not going to change that. And it's interesting that in this election year, all 5 of the offices up for the people to decide and choose on in November are open. They're all open. That has led to primaries, a lot of primaries. And so, I mean, if the need to slap term limits on were some pressing need, how would we have ended up with 5 open offices in which people are departing the offices they hold? I think the situation we have now is fine.
Ms. Hannaway.
I support term limits. I support term limits continuing. I think that our founders intended for our legislative bodies to reflect the citizenry, for people to come either to Washington, D.C. or to Jefferson City for a limited amount of time, and for it to be a timeout from their career or their service to their community or their service to their family. I wish we had term limits at the federal level. I think it might do a great deal to change Washington for the better. I haven't run for any office in 12 years. I wasn't sure I'd run for an office again. It is the fact that the leadership at the governor's mansion has driven people out of this state, has driven jobs out of this state, has made our state less safe, that encouraged me to say, you know, it's time to lead. It's time to get back into the fight. It's time to work to reverse the policies that are driving jobs out of our state. It's time to make sure that we're getting better jobs in our state. And that's why I'm running for governor. Because I don't want one day all these wonderful young people who are here to look over their shoulder and say, yeah, I'm from Missouri. I grew up there. But that they've left and gone on to some greener pasture because there just wasn't enough opportunity here for them.
Mr. Greitens.
Look, Mark Twain said that diapers and politicians should be changed frequently and for the same reason. Okay? I've been running on a very clear platform. I believe that we should have term limits for every statewide office holder. I also believe that we need to close the revolving door between legislators and special interests. And we've got a very simple proposal. Career politicians don't like it, but the people do. Very simple proposal. You serve 1 year in the legislature and you want to become a lobbyist, then you have to wait for 1 year. You serve for 2 years. You want to become a lobbyist, then you got to wait for 2 years. And if you're a career politician and you've served for 20 years, then you got to wait for 20 years before you can become a lobbyist. This is very simple. Right? The other thing that we have to do is that we have to ban all gifts from lobbyists. We have to ban all gifts from lobbyists. Look, our founders intended that politics should be an honorable profession in which proven leaders engage for a short period of time, rather than this permanent lifetime game in which career politicians, because of their cowardice and their self-interest, shrink from facing the hard problems all around us. That's what we need, strong leaders, and to return to the vision that our founding fathers had.
Mr. Bruner.
You know, we can't forget why we all ran into term limits and support term limits. Because their frustration of the gridlock and not getting the job done. The problem with the tie-ins with some of the lobbyists. But, you know, for the most part, we have dedicated legislators there sacrificially trying to do a good job, trying to improve the state. And so I understand the challenges that you have when you have a very good person there and they're term limited out. You know, we all want the wrong people to leave. And so we've set up a program called Term Limits where everybody leaves. The core principle on all of this is to encourage citizens to get involved in their government, to go in there and volunteer to serve a couple terms and go home. I like the way General MacArthur said about the Marines in the South Pacific in World War II. He said, I love those Marines. They just want to go in there, win the war, and come home. And that's why I'm running for governor. As a citizen, understanding the issues in our state, to take a lifetime of experiences here, to go in and get the job done. My friends, I can't be bought. I'm not looking to jumpstart a political career. I don't need a career. I don't need a job. But my passion is to do what I can to help the citizens of Missouri. And hopefully I can inspire other people across the state to volunteer their time if they have the opportunity to jump in and get the job done. So the call for action is citizens get involved any way you can. We'll have a better state.
For all candidates, our viewers shared many concerns about the divisive state of politics within the state. One of the people taking our survey wants to know how each of you plan to get Democrats and Republicans to work together. You all have 90 seconds. We'll begin with Mr. Greitens.
Look, it's very simple. This is what leaders do. Leaders have to bring people together to work together. And that's what I've done doing humanitarian work overseas, when I worked in one of Mother Teresa's homes for the destitute and dying, when I worked in Cambodia with kids who'd lost limbs to landmines, kids who were survivors of polio. That's what I did as a Navy SEAL who served 4 tours overseas. And that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years, working with returning veterans. What we did to be successful was that we brought people out together. We asked people to serve together. This year we're going to be serving over 7,000 veterans around the country. But we also went out to people who had veterans in their families, or maybe people who just respected our military and were patriots, and we asked them to join them in our mission. At the Mission Continues, we've been successful because we had over 100,000 people come out to it to actually embrace our mission and to work beside us. And I've gone out to the Ferguson-Florissant School District with hundreds of our veterans to rebuild an outdoor playground. I've gone out to churches for church rehabilitation projects, in schools for school rehabilitation projects. We've worked together with Fox Sports Midwest to build baseball fields all over the state. What happens is that when you have strong leaders who are willing to call on people and ask them to step forward to do something positive, people come together. And that's what we need to have. We need to have a positive leader who has experience bringing people together, and that's what I'm going to bring to the state of Missouri.
Mr. Bruner.
You know, my entire life has been in building teams and getting the job done. My first opportunity to understand teamwork in action was in the Marine Corps. These are generally smaller units that give you a tremendous amount of responsibility. And they drill down the accountability and responsibility down to the unit leader and down to the individuals. I saw what teamwork in action does in the Marine Corps. And then when I came back to the small family business, we pulled together people from different backgrounds and experiences. A lot of these folks didn't have higher educations or impressive backgrounds, but they had a heart. They had a work ethic. And we treated each other's family, and every single time we got together, I always talked about we're a team, a family, working together. And many times I'd say we're just a bunch of ordinary people working together to achieve extraordinary results. And we achieved those results working together. You want to talk about teamwork? Go to Africa on the mission field. All kinds of beliefs, all kinds of ideas. How do you bring 400 different pastors together and all focus in the right direction? You know, at the end of the day, it starts with mutual respect and caring for one another and doing a lot more listening than talking. It's an attitude. And I believe that my successes in the military, in business, in the mission field, as an outsider, I'm ready to do the same thing here in Missouri and get the job done. A lot less talk, a lot more action, get results for a change. That's my mission and that's my goal.
Mr. Kinder.
Go to St. Louis and ask around about my reputation. Ask them if there is an atypical Republican who, throughout his career, has showed up in the minority community, working with people, working with Democrats, working with Republicans, working with people of goodwill from all parts of the region on housing, on school choice, and championing those issues that would make a difference in the lives of those people, who has not asked anyone's politics, and who has made clear that I'm willing to work with anyone of goodwill, anywhere in this state. You know, there was an article in the St. Louis American, there was a column, a regularly weekly feature in that paper, an African-American newspaper called The Eye. And The Eye used to be written in more of a vernacular, I'll call it a street style. And they wrote of the lieutenant governor, me, that when you invite the dude, he shows up and he stays. And they were referring to odd-numbered years and even-numbered years. That's how I've been able to build a coalition and be a two-time winner in 2008 and 12 statewide when no one else on the statewide ticket for Republicans made it to the winner's circle. Now, that is not nothing. To be able to carry 109 counties across this great state and get a few more votes in the minority community because I showed up year after year and proved my sincerity. And by the way, that sliming attack of a few weeks ago, the people of Missouri heard $3 million of it 2 years ago and reelected me twice.
Hannaway.
Thank you. You know, the job of governor is a job that starts on day one. And it's not a job where you can get on-the-job training. You need to be able to assume the duties of the governor of the state of Missouri from the first moment that you put your hand on that Bible and took that oath. And I have a track record of working across the aisle and getting things done. When we passed concealed carry in the Missouri House, I supported it. We passed it. The then Democratic governor vetoed it, and I persuaded 18 Democrats to vote with us to override his veto and make it the law here in Missouri for the first time in our state's history. When I was Speaker of the House, we ended public funding for abortions. We put the first mandatory waiting period in place on abortions, and we did that with Democrat support. There were no Republicans from the city of St. Louis or the Kansas City area. I thought it was important that their voices be represented, so I created an urban affairs committee and actually put a Democrat as chairman of that committee, even though we were the majority party. When I reformed the foster care laws in this state, more than 50 Democrats supported me. So when the day comes to start to make the kind of bold changes that we need to get this state growing again, we need someone with an established track record in the governor's office ready to lead on day one.
All right, Catherine, we're going to come right back to you with another question. At the beginning of the current legislative sessions, both parties supported campaign reform and eliminating or at least limiting political gifts. You have received $750,000 from a single donor for your campaign. Do you support reforms to how campaigns are funded in the state of Missouri? You have 90 seconds.
Absolutely, I support ethical reforms in every aspect of the political process. I support bans on gifts from lobbyists to legislators or members of the executive branch. I would like to close the revolving door so that people can't go right from an executive or a legislative position into lobbying. And I'm the only candidate who's come out for truth in campaign financing. And by that I mean if you're going to run for a particular office and you raise a whole bunch of money to do it, you should either have to run for that office or return that money to your contributors. Too often we've seen people raise money for offices, not run for them, call upon the trust of the people who've invested in their campaign, and instead walk out the door and build lobbying careers where they go back and lobby the very legislators they just served with. And so the thing that I think will clean the system is sunlight and transparency. And so, yes, a contributor made a very substantial contribution to my campaign, but everyone in this room knows about it. Everyone in Missouri can look it up. What I want to do is expose the wrongs that are happening behind closed doors with insiders. And we do that if we have truth in campaign financing, ban lobbyist gifts, and close the revolving door.
All right, thank you. Also on the topic of campaign donations, Mr. Greitens, many of your sizable donations have come from outside of Missouri. So do you think that Missourian values are being represented in your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. What you found with our campaign is actually that we are outraising all of the other candidates on this stage in Missouri. We're raising more money in Missouri than all of the other candidates. And not only are we raising more money in Missouri, we are bringing people together around Missouri to support this campaign. Of course we have donors from around the country. You know why? Because unlike career politicians, I've actually worked with people to change and save lives. And when you do that kind of work around the country, of course, strong conservatives who believe that the states are the laboratories of democracy, they also want to invest in a campaign like this. And we're proud of those investments. They're investing in a leader who they know and a leader who they trust. We've been able to create results for people, and that's why people are investing in this campaign. And the reason why we've been so successful in Missouri is that we're bringing people together who haven't been involved in the political process. We're organizing veterans and law enforcement officers. We are organizing doctors and nurses, police officers, firefighters. We are bringing people together because people are tired of the fake, regurgitated, mediocre leadership that they've seen in Missouri, and they want a change. And that's what we're doing in this election.
Mr. Bruner, you're largely bankrolling your own campaign. There's a guy running for president who's doing the same thing. Because you're both businessmen, do you sort of align yourself with Donald Trump?
If I answer that in one way, I'll make half the audience upset with me. No, I tell you what here. Let's get down to reality on this. You know, our family's been in the manufacturing business for over 100 years, and we've worked hard. We've seen the good times and the bad times. And I frankly just have a heart to serve. And I know what we need to do to get the state on track. You know, I don't have the experience of public speaking or serving in the legislature or even being a good prosecutor. I've been on the plant floor the entire time. But I do know what we need to do to get the job done. And I'm willing to put in my own funds and resources along with contributions from all across the state and work together to get the job done. You know, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, one of the tough issues that I came across was a term called name ID. And my opponent, Claire McCaskill, had between $12 and $15 million of name ID. It's important that we are able to challenge these incumbents and be able to replace some of these incumbents with people who have the heart to serve with a better attitude, maybe better experiences, and people that can't be bought, frankly, and just want to get the job done. So that's where my heart is, and that's where my motivation is in terms of running for this governor's office as a heart to serve to help others. You know, I do agree we need to have transparency. That's a key element throughout all campaigns. Be able to understand where the sources are and let the citizens decide.
Lieutenant Governor Kinder, Governor Nixon has been heavily criticized for travel expenses, but so have you, particularly with hotel bills. Your response?
They were audited twice by Democratic auditors who found no problem with them on 2 3-year cycles of audits. They went through every invoice, every receipt for those hotel rooms, each one of which was paid at the government rate. It was not higher than the government rate. When the Post-Dispatch wrote 2,300 words on some hotel invoices that Democratic auditors had found no problem with, I went the extra mile when there was about $3,000 of disputed expenses that might be called into question. I said, I'm going to go back several years and write a personal check, not a campaign check like Jay Nixon did right before he ran for governor. I wrote the largest personal check I've ever written for $53,000 to remove any hint of a taint from my name, and I operated under that burden for several years before just paying off that note.
Very quickly.
Again, they were audited by Democratic auditors who found no fault.
If elected, would you use the Highway Patrol plane for travel like Governor?
Sure, I would. It's a big state. You're CEO of a $26 billion operation, and you've got to get around. There are times when you've got to be here in mid-Missouri, and you've got to be in the boot heel that afternoon, and you need the plane. What you don't need is Jay Nixon's $6 million new airplane that he bought 3 weeks after he was reelected. That was a disgrace. And when he was called on it, he put it off on the Highway Patrol, and a state audit by the late Tom Schweik showed that we didn't need that plane.
We have to move on to closing statements. Catharine Hanaway, 2 minutes.
A little over 12 years ago, half a world away, a woman I've never met became a hero to our family. You see, she chose life. And as a result of her choice, we have a son today. My husband and I traveled to Eastern Europe to an orphanage that had 300 children in it under the age of 3. We adopted him and we came back to the United States. And as we came back after seeing the ravages that the Soviet Union had wrought on Eastern Europe, we came through customs, and in that moment, the customs agent said something to me that I will have in my heart if I have the chance to take the oath of office as your next governor. In my head, I'll have the Constitution. Under my hand, I'll have the Bible. And in my heart, I'll have the moment that customs agent looked at us and said, "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Hannaway. Your son is an American." Now, I'd probably heard that word a million times at that point, but I'd never heard it quite the same way in my heart. Because I knew that as a result of the blood that men and women have spilt defending our liberties, because of the sacrifices that people have made for our form of government, he would be able to pray as he wanted, to live as he wanted, to work as he wanted. Ronald Reagan said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction, that we don't pass it through the bloodlines, that each generation has to sacrifice for it. So tonight I humbly ask you not just for your vote, but to join me in this movement, to make sure that we pass on to the next generation as good as we got. And not just that we win elections, but that we restore our Constitution, that we bring the best jobs to Missouri, and that we make Missouri safe and strong again. Thank you.
The closing statements were predetermined by coin flip. I failed to mention that. Lieutenant Governor Kinder, you're second.
For our nominee for governor this fall, you need a cheerful, confident, optimistic, proven leader, and a trusted conservative. I am that candidate. There's only one other candidate running for governor this year who has run statewide and never lost. His name is Chris Koster. He is not a pushover. I've been humbled and honored to win 3 times. I've come from behind in all 3 of my statewide runs. I've been outspent and still won. I've defeated better-known opponents, and twice I was the only Republican to make it to the winner's circle out of 11 aspiring candidates. As my friend Roy Blunt has recently been noting to audiences across the state, there are 8 statewide officials counting the 2 United States senators. There are only 2 of us who are Republicans. If this were easy to do, don't you think there'd be more of us? It's not easy to do. It's not easy to knit together urban and rural parts of this state as I've been able to do. We're going up against an experienced winner in November. We must send our strongest contender to meet that challenge. I've shown that I can get a few more votes in the urban area, including in minority precincts, by an honest appeal that doesn't give up any conservative principle, an honest appeal based on sincerity, and that results in my still carrying 109 of 114 counties. I'm your proven, trusted conservative, your confident, optimistic leader who can lead us back to the governor's mansion this year, and I humbly ask for your support.
Mr. Greitens.
In 2008, I was serving in Iraq as a commander of an al-Qaeda targeting cell. March 28th, that day, at 6 o'clock in the morning, my team came under attack. It was a suicide truck bomb that went off right outside of our barracks. That day, the first person to come to my aid was a Marine who ran across the compound, a Marine named Travis Mannion. Now, when they told me later that I had to go to the hospital, I turned to Travis. And I said, "Hey, man, you got it?" And he said, "Yes, sir, I've got your back." That was the last thing that Travis Mannion ever said to me, because 2 weeks later, he died defending his fellow Marines in Fallujah. And when I came home, I went to visit Travis's parents. And I told him that we're going to see that his values of hard work and service and sacrifice would live on. Think now about your own parents, your own grandparents, the coaches and teachers and mentors, church and synagogue leaders, friends who have sacrificed so that we could have this country. We have a duty to see that those values of hard work and personal sacrifice and service live on. And that's what we're going to do in this campaign. And you know what? We are ready to take all of the attacks from the career politicians, because while they're going to give you something to complain about, I'm offering you something to fight for. Right? While they refuse to take responsibility and they make excuses, we're going to take responsibility for making things as they should be. And if we meet their efforts to confuse with our insistence on common sense, we'll win. And if we meet their false promises with our proven solutions, we will win. And if we meet their corruption with our courage, we will win. And together, we will build a Missouri that we are proud to pass on to our children. Together, we will see that Missouri's best days are still ahead of us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Mr. Bruner.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and speak with you tonight and to you at home. You know, as John Bruner is governor, you'll get a lifetime constitutional conservative. You'll get an outsider. You'll get a business person. You'll get somebody who puts his faith in action. But folks, I'm a results type of person. We have to win an election. And we're only going to win this election with a compelling contrast with our Attorney General. A contrast that puts a trial lawyer, a job killer, against a businessman who creates jobs. A political flip-flopper with a lifetime constitutional conservative, a politician against a U.S. Marine. Now that is a compelling contrast which will win this election. But folks, we also have to be unified. And last Tuesday, we did have an election here, and the state was evenly divided, maybe separated by 2,000 votes, between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. Now, I understand the folks who voted for Donald Trump because they're looking for the outsider. They're looking for somebody who can get the job done, a business person. And I understand the folks who voted for Ted Cruz. They're looking for a constitutional conservative. They're looking for a person of faith. Folks, I can bring all of those attributes and values and talents and abilities together to pull our state together to win this election. You know, at the end of the day, it is all about results. And if you're looking for results, you need to elect a governor who's all about results. What I've done in my past is the best record of what I'll do in the future. And we'll get results. And we'll build our state back. I tell my friends across this state, we can take this country back one state at a time. And it begins right here in Missouri. My friends, I'll make one last appeal, as George Washington did when he said an appeal to heaven on his battle flag. I would suggest that maybe we appeal to God, and may God continue to shed his grace and mercy on America.
All right, everyone. We want to thank all of our candidates for joining us tonight. We very much appreciate your time. We also want to thank our live studio audience for coming here to the beautiful Missouri Theater in downtown Columbia. We would also like to thank our partners in this event. We have all worked very hard. Along with KOMU TV, we've worked with the University of Missouri and the Columbia Chamber of Commerce to bring this to you. And finally, we want to thank all of you at home who have watched this debate and gotten involved in this election season.
And we are not done. Meg and Judy will be live back at KOMU in the studio with the post-debate, talking about everything that happened here with some of our guests. But we want to keep the conversation going with you. You can go on our Facebook page. Let us know what you want fact-checked from the debate, and keep the conversation going on Twitter with the hashtag KOMOGovDebate.
Meg and Judy is coming up in 2 minutes. You're watching a special edition of KOMU 8 News, Smart Decision 2016. We'll be right back.
I don't take cases if I'm not willing to go and take it to court.
You have to be a hard worker. You have to be quick on your feet.
If you take cases and then it gets hard and then you get out of them, then the insurance companies know they can push you around.
The insurance company has real good lawyers, and they know who tries it and they know who doesn't.
No matter how big or how small your case is, we always try to do the right thing. We always try to get justice for our clients.
At Ingham Woods, we stand for you.
At the Jefferson City Autoplex, our Markdown Madness sales event is a great way to score huge savings on over 2,500 quality pre-owned vehicles of every make and model, including dozens of vehicles under $10 grand with payments as low as $99 a month. Plus, we have unbeatable prices. It's Markdown Madness time, and now through Monday, we're passing the savings on to you. The Jefferson City Autoplex, right on price and right on Missouri Boulevard. Or shop online today at jeffcityautoplex.com.
Here's another FFO Home success story.
Jess's mom had a real health scare and she came to live with us. Her old pull-out couch simply wasn't going to cut it.
We wanted something nice for my mom's room, and FFO Home really came through. A beautiful 5-piece bedroom set. They had a huge selection, so it was easy to find the style my mom liked. FFO helped us make her feel at home.
FFO Home, where great quality lives for less.
Your hands can send a text, play a song, congratulate a win. And when they want to go hands-free with Ford Sync, they go to Joe Mawkins Ford. Because during the Get Into the New Sales event, get 0% interest for 60 months and $2,000 in trade-in assist cash. Plus, get the Mawkins Customer First Guarantee. Legendary low prices, more for your trade, and the largest inventory in the state. The #1 volume dealer for 19 years is Joe Mawkins Ford. Columbia, Jefferson City, and JoeMawkinsFord.com.
Welcome to a special edition of KOMU 8 News Smart Decision 2016. I'm your host, Meg and Judy. We've just wrapped up our coverage of the GOP gubernatorial debate from the Missouri Theater, but our post-debate coverage is just getting started. There's a lot to talk about tonight. The candidates all laid out their plans for defeating Democratic nominee Chris Koster and the issues they want to tackle if elected governor. Later on in the show, political science professors Marvin Overby and Terry Smith will join our coverage as guest analysts. We'll break down who had the strongest performance tonight. We begin our coverage with former Missouri House Speaker Catharine Hanaway. She had some pointed words for Eric Greitens, the former Navy SEAL, about one of the donors to his campaign.
Eric Greitens' biggest donor, who gave him $1 million, an investor from Silicon Valley, this week was alleged to have sexually abused a woman. It's time for Eric Greitens to send his contribution back, or better yet, send it to a shelter for abused women.
Well, unlike career politicians, I'm not going to convict someone in the court of public opinion. Let's
yet
see
his employer,
how this civil case,
who was closer to the situation than you were, was willing to cut all ties.
Madam Speaker.
Every corporate board he's on.
Greitens.
That was our first head-to-head sparring we saw during this gubernatorial debate. Another sparring partners would have been Peter Kinder and Eric Greitens. Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder went after Eric Greitens, who attacked Kinder's past in another heated exchange. Take a listen.
What the man has already admitted to have caused his former business associates to sever ties with him. John Kasich did the honorable stand-up thing of giving back the money within a few hours of hearing about it.
I think, Peter, you're the last person on this stage, sir, who should be trafficking in tabloid stories about men hanging out in strip clubs.
Peter Kinder is from the Cape Girardeau area. He served as lieutenant governor of Missouri for the last 12 years. When Republicans got their first majority in the Senate in more than 50 years back in 2001, Kinder served as the state Senate's pro tem. Early in his career, he first held public office as a state senator from 1992 to 2004. Tonight, during our debate, before his heated discussion you just saw there with Greitens, Kinder talked about what he thinks led to the problems in the city of Ferguson.
One of the reasons we had the trouble that we had in Ferguson, because young men were walking around with nothing to do, no job. You talk about dead end and hopelessness, they drift into trouble.
Catharine Hanaway, she was the first ever woman to serve as Speaker of the House in Missouri back from 2002 to 2004. She's from the St. Louis area. Hanaway ran for Attorney General in 2004 and lost to Robin Carnahan. After that failed run, she became a U.S. District Attorney in the Eastern District of Missouri from 2004 until 2009. Catharine Hanaway currently is working for the St. Louis law firm Hush and Blackwell. Tonight, she proposed a hands-on approach to fixing racial conflicts in Ferguson, Missouri, and said Governor Jay Nixon did not do what he should have to get connected to the community there.
A big part of the problem in Ferguson was that our governor didn't have relationships in that community before it happened, and it certainly wasn't possible for him to build them after it happened. He had bad relationships with everyone involved.
Eric Greitens is a former Navy SEAL and a White House fellow in the George W. Bush White House. Greitens used to run the Mission Continues. It's a group that helps veterans adjust to the society when they come back following service. Greitens is also a best-selling author, a Rhodes Scholar, and Gold Gloves boxing champion. Tonight, he fended off attacks on his character and talked about the failure of leadership in the state of Missouri to get involved in Ferguson.
We had no leaders who were willing to go to the front lines. And you know what? Our police officers who were out there were abandoned. They deserve to have a leader who knows what it means to put on body armor and wear a sidearm. They deserve to have a leader who knows what it means to say goodbye to your family and step into the dark and do dangerous work.
Our final candidate, John Bruner, is a St. Louis business leader who is the CEO of a corporation which produces the Germex brand of hand sanitizer. He is a former Marine. Bruner ran for U.S. Senate and narrowly lost to Todd Akin before Akin eventually lost to Claire McCaskill in the general election. Tonight, while his fellow candidates talked Ferguson, Bruner talked about growing the economy.
You know, it's all about a living wage, and you're exactly right. It is a living wage, but you get a living wage by growing the economy for companies that are expanding, for people who feel a sense of an opportunity to be promoted in those companies.
We would also like to invite you right now to go to KOMU8's Facebook page for a Facebook Live discussion with KOMU8 Chief Investigator Jamie Gray. We want to know what you want us to fact-check from the debate tonight, and let us know what issues the candidates brought up that you would like us to research and then continue over the next 4 months before the election would happen. This is happening right now on our Facebook page. Now, coming up next, we'll hear from our guest analysts on who they thought had the best showing. We'll also talk about the importance of a debate, whether or not it actually makes a difference at this point, and whether or not any of the candidates separated themselves as the possibility to be a good contender against Chris Koster. You are right now watching a special edition of KOMU 8 News Smart Decision 2016. We'll be right back.
KOMU 8 News Smart Decision 2016 is brought to you by the law offices of Ing & Woods. We stand for you. Meet the Joe Machins Ram Squad.
Rain, sleet, and snow. Sounds just fine to me.
You can find my resume under the hood.
Work hard, play hard, drive hard.
If it don't go, I can tow.
Get 0% interest for 84 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash on all 2016 LD Crew Bighorns and 2016 LD Quad Cabs. Joe Machins Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Get more on Vandiver and at Joe Machins Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.com.
This is the KOMU 8 Cares calendar.
Stop by Joe Machins Nissan on Friday and Saturday to get a free child safety kit with a digital safety record of your child and safety tips for a family action plan. Also, the Columbia Farmers Market moves back outside this Saturday. Browse fresh local goods in the parking lot behind the Ark.
This KOMU 8 Cares calendar is brought to you by Service Master of Columbia, a KOMU 8 caring company.
All is well in the family room until everyone wants the same chair. Solution, Slumberland's 2-for-1 low price on recliners and chairs, including Lazy Boy. Get these 2 recliners for just $3.99 and so many others to choose from. Don't fight over a chair. Get 2-for-1 low price, chairs and recliners. Slumberland, it's a good life.
At the Jefferson City Autoplex, our Markdown Madness sales event is a great way to score huge savings on over 2,500 quality pre-owned vehicles of every make and model, including dozens of vehicles under $10 grand with payments as low as $99 a month. Plus, we have unbeatable prices. It's Markdown Madness time, and now through Monday, we're passing the savings on to you. The Jefferson City Autoplex, right on price and right on Missouri Boulevard. Or shop online today at jeffcityAutoplex.com.
What I'm hearing is you've had a belly full of what has gone on the campus of the University of Missouri here in Columbia. We have had a massive failure of leadership from the governor's mansion on down.
Welcome back. That was Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder talking about the protests last November on MU's campus. And we're going to break down and analyze this past debate we've been watching now for the past since 7 o'clock. I am joined by Dr. Marvin Overby and Dr. Terry Smith, political science professors from MU and Columbia College, respectively. I've had the pleasure of sitting through the debate with them. Wealth of knowledge over here. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Our pleasure.
We really appreciate it. Obviously, one of the things that we discussed as the debate was going on is that these 4 candidates really cut from similar GOP cloth. Right. So the specific topic that we kind of narrowed in on that would set them apart from one another was MU. How do you think the candidates, Dr. Overby, how do you think the candidates fared speaking about MU? Did anybody come out kind of, a little more forceful with a little more solid opinion?
Yeah. You're right, Megan. For much of the debate, they were all speaking from the same catechism, right? They were all doing the same Republican conservative catechism about the basic core beliefs of the party. But there was a little bit of separation, I think, on the MU and Ferguson question. And Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder looked right into the camera and was speaking to, I think, a statewide audience as opposed to a local audience, right? This debate is held here in MU, it's held at the Missouri Theater. The local audience here, much more supportive of MU. He was not speaking to the local audience. He was speaking statewide.
Right. Specifically, he said he was talking about athletes, and he was saying that if a player who's on a scholarship decides to protest and then sit out of a game, that they should then lose their scholarship. Right. And like you said, that was more of a statewide argument as opposed to a localized argument. How do you think that would play across the state, Dr. Smith?
Well, he was clearly playing to the diversity out there and to all the opinions about MU that have bubbled up over in recent months. And I thought it was, quite frankly, one of the high points in the sense of memorable moments of the entire debate. I also think that there was a subtext there in addition, and I agree completely with the catechism comment, but there was a subtext there. There were 2 outsiders and 2 establishment candidates.
Yes.
And so it was kind of that layer was also in operation tonight as well.
Yeah, it was the politicians versus the non-politicians. Right. It was kind of what it felt like, and there was a separation on the stage as well. So I guess that begs the question, does a debate make a difference in a gubernatorial election? If you're trying to narrow in on a GOP candidate, does a debate like this matter?
Well, we got 4 months, more than 4 months, which is an eternity in politics until the primary.
And news.
Yeah, and who knows what's going to happen. I really think that this particular debate wasn't a watershed in that anybody stood out. I think somebody maybe had better moments than others, but I don't think anybody won it. It's hard to win a debate especially when you've got more than 2 debaters, and it's easier to lose a debate if you have one of those nasty YouTube moments, which I don't think occurred tonight, but it was lively, and I think we saw the personalities of the candidates. I mean, Hannaway is the prosecutor with a plan. Bruner has business solutions to things. Greitens is an unapologetic outsider. Kinder
and quite the orator. I think that's what we took away from, Eric Greitens, really quite the orator.
And Kinder is basically saying, I'm the one with the broadest appeal, which is not necessarily a message that's well received by all Republicans.
So, Dr. Overby, do you think somebody lost tonight?
Oh, no, I don't think so. To get to the basic question, we don't know much about what effects debates have on any race, right, from the presidential level on down. I don't know of any work that's been done systematically about gubernatorial debates. We don't know about what happens in primaries debates. I do think this gave all the candidates a chance to do a couple of things. One is to introduce themselves more to the voters in this part of the state, talk about their personal narratives. You saw a lot of that in this debate, right? They weren't so much talking about the issues. In fact, they oftentimes dodged the issues.
Yeah, and then went around to their own personal stories.
Talk about I'm a businessman, talk about I'm a SEAL, talk about I was a prosecuting attorney, talking about their personal narrative, and beginning to hone sort of the message they're going to have to get very, very much sharper on in the next 4 months.
I think that's a standard debate tactic, isn't it? To, like you said, not necessarily answer the question asked, but answer the question you wish was asked of you, just to make sure you stay on topic. Minimum wage, we seem to go all over the place. Couldn't quite get a straight answer on that one. So, MU and Ferguson were the big ones that I think a lot of people were very curious about how these candidates were going to react. Do you think, we said that Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder, his answer was pretty strong. Do you think, let's say John Bruner, did he come out strong enough, an opinion on race politics in Missouri?
I don't think so.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think the other candidates particularly handled the question well. There was some talk of this sort of inside baseball things about naming curators and changing that. I think the other points that were probably scored on that particular question was especially Hannaway and Kinder going after Governor Nixon.
Right. They mentioned Governor Nixon a lot, tied him with Chris Koster a lot. And then, I guess in our next block, we can kind of talk about some of those head-to-head disagreements and, talking about donors, because donors seemed to be a contentious topic that kind of laced through the entire debate. So we're going to take a break real fast and come back with these two very lovely men who have way more knowledge about political science than, the combination right here, I tell you, I bet you guys could have some serious conversation. You are watching a special edition of KOMU 8 News Smart Decision 2016. We'll be right back.
I don't take cases if I'm not willing to go and take it to court.
You have to be a hard worker. You have to be quick on your feet.
If you take cases and then it gets hard and then you get out of them, then the insurance companies know they can push you around.
The insurance company has real good lawyers, and they know who tries it and they know who doesn't.
No matter how big or how small your case is, we always try to do the right thing. We always try to get justice for our clients.
At Ing & Woods, we stand for you.
You upgrade your phone. You upgrade your clothes. Now, you can upgrade your ride. Because Joe Machens Nissan has new Altimas at just $17,995. $17,995 for new Altimas is completely unheard of. And with the Machens Customer First Guarantee, your upgrade comes with peace of mind. You'll always get more when you upgrade your ride at Joe Machens Nissan, both sides of I-70 and at joemachensnissan.com.
Right now, getting beautiful designs for every room in your home at amazingly low prices is a slam dunk. During the Slam Dunk Savings Event at Furniture Row, you'll find special deals throughout the stores. Dining sets starting at $299. Sofas as low as $299. and queen beds starting at $299. Plus, score up to 3 years no interest. But hurry, the shot clock is winding down on the Slam Dunk Savings event at Furniture Row.
A little help?
A car for less than $200 a month? Yes, get yours today during the One for Everyone sales event at Joe Watkins Toyota Scion. A 2016 Camry, a Kelley Blue Book Best Buy, just $18,990. Payments as low as $189 a month for a purchase, not a lease. 0% is available. Plus, if you have credit problems, we can help. Take advantage of our convenient Saturday service hours, and we'll even wash your car for free. You always get more at Mockins. Joe Mockins Toyota Scion, 1180 Vandiver, JoeMockinsToyota.com.
Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of KOMU 8 News Smart Decision 2016. I'm sitting with Dr. Marvin Overby and Dr. Terry Smith, political science professors here in the city of Columbia. And we've had a lot of really great discussions about how the four candidates fared tonight. And specifically, one of the people we wanted to touch on at this point is Catharine Hanaway. Dr. Smith, you said you had a few things that you took away from the debate concerning Catharine.
Well, she's tough, politically and personally. But the other thing is that she's the only female. And I just wonder if that dynamic is going to work in the state level at the same way that it's likely to work at the national level, where there will be some women voting for Catharine Hanaway because she's a female. And so who knows, but we won't know until after the election. But she does have an advantage in that of the four, she's the only female.
She had a prosecutorial tone.
She did.
To the way she was debating this evening, and specifically right out of the gate, going after Eric Greitens, talking about one of his donors is being accused. He gave out $1 million to his campaign, and one of the donors is being accused of sexual assault. And then she was saying that she thought the candidate, Eric Greitens, should give that money to a women's abuse shelter.
And she made that remark in a question that related to minimum wage. She had 10 seconds, and she saw her opportunity. She turned on it. We were talking during the break about whether or not that issue is going to have legs, whether it's going to have tractions, whether it's a Benghazi moment or not. It remains to be seen, right? But it's the kind of thing that is going to, that Greitens is going to have to respond to. And it was interesting that the bad blood we knew was out there between Greitens and Bruner. That wasn't on the stage tonight.
Right, that's what we were kind of waiting for, because there was the issue of a recorded phone call between Greitens and Bruner, and that was, kind of, everybody was waiting for them to snap at each other.
And they don't go at each other tonight. It's the Kinder and Hannaway going after Greitens on that, and him responding forcefully, I think, to both of those points that were brought up.
So, your takeaway from the debate tonight, these were four GOP candidates for governor. Do you think whomever would win the GOP nomination, how do you think they would fare against the Democratic candidate, Chris Koster?
Kinder is the only one of the three who have run for public office before who has actually won a statewide election. He made that point several times.
Right, says, 1-3 narrow, but won.
Yeah, and come from behind. And it is because in statewide elections in Missouri, Republicans do have to have a broader appeal. Now, how is that going to play out in a Republican electorate? That question's getting answered at the national level right now. I really think, and this is just something that came to me as I was watching, that this is going to, that this four-way race is going to end up being Kinder versus the other three, and that they're going to have to find a way to keep him from getting some separation, in my view.
No mention of Donald Trump tonight.
Very rarely, and that was an interesting point.
I kind of thought it was going to be a hot button issue or something that everybody keyed in on.
That there would be a question of, do you promise do you swear support for whoever gets the Republican nomination? Right. That question wasn't asked, and the candidates themselves, they didn't want to go there. Right? They didn't want to tie this to national politics. I think the one time it came up, Bruner says, "I'm going to irritate half the room no matter what I say with this, so I'm going to try to steer away from it." I think they would like to insulate this from what's going on at the national level, because they don't know what's going on at the national level with the Republican Party.
Yeah, especially with the possibility of a contested convention.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that there wasn't a specific question asked about that. Certainly as specific as the one that you were talking about, but maybe even more, given all the uncertainties that are going on at the national level, how does the Missouri race fit into that? Because I think that would have, I would like to have known where they stand on some of these bigger issues. Obviously, they're running for governor, and the hot button issues were well covered. I hope in a future debate that they do nationalize it a little bit because, you know, Missouri does not exist in isolation of national trends.
Right, exactly. Not quite the bellwether state it used to be, but it does, you know, we have a decent delegate count to hand out. So I think the thing that's really interesting about this debate, you know, the audience reaction. We had some booing despite constant reminders to stay quiet. Were you surprised at how the audience was reacting to this debate?
This is, in some ways, a home crowd for Greitens, right? His wife works at the university. He is probably better known here than he is many places around the state, maybe outside of sort of the business community in St. Louis. So in some ways, this is a home
field
court
advantage.
for him. He has home field advantage here, yeah. And I think he took advantage of that, and you know, he did what he should do, right? He played to it.
And he's kind of the Bernie of this debate and this campaign in the sense that you say he's the college student candidate, and or at least it seemed to be tonight. You know, one of the things I was thinking about, Marvin, as we're talking, I've seen lots of debates. We all have.
Oh, you have? I'm so surprised.
And I'm at the end of the debate, and people like Marvin and I are talking, and I'm thinking, did they see the same debate I did? So I really hope that we've been able to kind of be, you know, objective and kind of capture the essence of what's going on. I thought it was really fun. I think it was illuminating. There were lots of interesting things that came out, lots of fodder for as the campaign continues to go.
And better behaved than many of the presidential debates.
Well, I mean,
now that bar is pretty low.
Pretty low.
Kind of go off the rails with that one, absolutely.
Megan, one thing that interested me is that it seemed like that Hannaway and Kinder, they were already looking at the general election.
Yes,
right? They were
think you're
talking about Koster. Bruner and Greitens, they were looking much more at the primary election because as the outsiders, they're the ones who are less well known.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate all of your help with everything. You've watched a special edition tonight of KOMU 8 News and the gubernatorial debate. Stay with us. The 9 o'clock news is up next, and we'll certainly have more coverage of the governor's race. Thanks again to my guests, and thank you all for watching.